Guys, remember to turn off your cell phones, please. We're going to do a reading from the book Happy Life. When you are facing difficulties and tough trials on the road of spiritual growth, seek shelter in a heartfelt prayer of faith in God. It will keep you from falling into the abyss of rebelliousness. A bit of inner silence and concentration, the soul locked in prayer and open to inspiration. These are necessary for you to receive the reassuring divine response. Make the climate of prayer a habit, and you will be in perennial communion with God, strengthened for the challenges ahead. God, thank you for this center, which allows us to come here to receive your blessings and learn about your creation. Thank you for each volunteer and others here present who allow this to be possible. We beseech you, Lord, to enlighten us and to help us achieve a true sentiment of charity in our hearts. We also desire, Lord, that those spirits who seek your path, that they may receive your love and your guidance. Amen. So tonight, our guest speaker is Roberto Cabral. He's going to be speaking to us about hope and consolidation. He's actually one of the members from A Caminho da Luz. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I was thinking in the preparation for this lecture, I was thinking that about 10 years ago, I was here, not in this room because we moved to a different building, but let's say that was in the main room of the center. I was part of a group, or I tried to be part of a group that was studying Spiritism in English. And at that time, I didn't know much about English. I didn't speak much. So I was there feeling really frustrated because there was so much that I wanted to say and I want to share during the studies. And I had no courage to open my mouth because everybody spoke fluently. And I was the only one who couldn't express myself. So at some point I gave up going to the meeting. But I have I have the opportunity later on to be part of the other group most recently. And I was able to learn more about Spiritism in English. And thanks to my wife as well, I was able to speak out, to participate, to share thoughts, and it was very important to me. And today I'm here giving lecture in English, which is I couldn't ever imagine 10 years ago that I was ever be able to do it. And what, as Tiago said, the topic today is hope and consolation. This is a topic from the Spirits book, the book 4, which covers in the chapter 1, earthly joys and sorrows, and chapter 2, future joys and sorrows. I'm not going to be able to cover all the subtopics because there are a lot. But I will focus on the main subject, which is the hope and consolation, which is about present and future life. I'll try to be focused more in this, in the essence of the topic. But before I started, I'd like to ask your permission to tell something personal that I experienced in life. When I was as a regular person, I experienced through all my ages what any regular person would experience in life. All the all the doubts, the sufferings, all the vicissitudes, as we say in Spiritism, but no major problems, no diseases, no accidents, no close to one being, no dying suddenly, nothing major in my life. So I would say that I don't know much about what means expiation, atonement, trials, because I can tell that I had a very happy life, regular and average, wasn't anything bad. But one thing could lead me to a maybe worse situation, which was when I was my teenage. I was a person very, very, very shy. I was those teenagers that you look at them and they put their eye down because they could like face anyone. I couldn't talk to strangers. If someone older than me talked to me, I wouldn't able to develop a conversation because I was very, very shy. And I think was worse than shy. Shy is a very nice word to describe this. I think I was more like low self-esteem, and I never felt myself able to face the world until something happened. My cousin that shared the same name and middle name that I have, he came to me one day knowing that I love music. Probably someone told him because I never expressed myself to others. He came to me and offered me to borrow his guitar. And so, oh, of course. So I started to learn guitar. And soon I found that behind those 6 strings, I was finally able to face the world. I started making friends. I started being in groups, like when I was playing, people are singing. I finally could express myself. So this happened a few years after this happened. My father retired, so we went back to our hometown, and there I went back to the Espírita Center because I was born a son of Espírita's parents, but when we moved out to another state, I never had contact with the Spiritism again until we come back to our hometown. So I went to a youth group where I found people that had the same type of ideas, the same liked the same thing I had, I liked. So I felt like this is my place. But this only was possible to happen because of music, because this is how I could interact with them, how could I express myself, and how I found easy to be part of the group. And coincidentally, in that group there was a girl who loved music as well. She was pianist, and long story short, we ended up getting married. So that was when I learned what is trial and what is expiation. Don't take me wrong, it's not because of her. She was a great soul, she probably still is, but because of what her parents were going through life. She had a younger brother that he was born healthy, a normal baby, but in a very early age, they started to notice that he was too quiet for a baby. Babies are not quiet at all, and he was very quiet. And they brought him to the doctor and to find that he was mentally ill, mentally incapable. As he grew, he could not express himself in words, even in signs. He was very active boy, but he could not express his thoughts or his needs. So he had to be fed, he had to be showered, he had to be dressed, and he was very active, boy, to the point that they couldn't bring him anywhere. If he was here in this room, for example, he would be climbing the chairs, he would be messing up with the computer, trying to reach that thing on the ceiling. So they could not bring him anywhere. They had to keep him at home. And as he grew older, he also became aggressive. He had a lot of aggressiveness. He sometimes come to you and pretend like he was trying to cuddle with you, and then he grabbed your hair and pull your head to the ground. So he was a very tough boy. And as he grew older and older, the situation was getting harder and harder. To the point that one day, there's another detail. In the house, they could not have anything that was breakable. The china was plastic or metal. The windows had no glass. They couldn't have glass in the windows because the boy would break it. But luckily, Brazil is a hot country, so it wasn't a big problem. Also because they had another home that someone could steal. So there's no problem that there is no glass in the window. So this is the type of life they were living. So one day they brought him to the doctor because he was taking medicine to slow down his nervous system so he could manage being that body. So one day when they brought him to the doctor and explained to the doctor everything that was going on, if the doctor could do something to help it, the doctor said that they should put him in a mental health institution, because otherwise they would not have life. They would be miserable and they could not help the boy at all. The doctor was very plain to say that. So they were devastating. They came back home, and they spoke to each other, and they came up with a decision. They were spiritists, so they knew that the boy were incarnated that way for a reason. If they just put him in an institution, what could they would be doing to him? Because he would be there like a number, probably a vegetable, because they would not treat him with love and care. So they decided to keep the boy at home at no cost, because they knew that a spirit in this situation, the best thing he can have is the love of a mother. There's nothing else he can have better than the love of a mother. So they decide to keep the boy inside with them. Few times they because his father used to go to the Spirit Center and the mediumship meetings, and a few times the boy was able to, in the spirit, while he was sleeping, going to this meeting and speak through a medium and tell them that he didn't want to stay in that body. All his revolt in life is because he didn't want to stay in that body, to the point that he used to hit his head on the wall with such a power that gave me like a cold in my stomach when I saw that. He had a big bump in his forehead because he used to hit his head on a wall. And as you know, walls in Brazil are made of brick with a layer of cement. Can you imagine that? And this is something that he used to do like every single day. So, but what I'm telling you, what I want to tell you is not about this boy. It's not about this family. what I want to tell is, one day his mother asked him to deliver some groceries to an address. The address was of a woman who had some kids and was in need. So she was donating something for her. And you know that in Brazil, we have this situation. The less you have is the more you give. People who has less are more open to give, to share the little they have than the others that have a lot. So I got the box full of groceries and went to this woman's house. When I got there, I saw that the house was in the brick but not finishing in the walls. And she was in the front yard, which was very poor, just like the house was very poor property. She was in the front yard washing clothes because she used to do other people's laundry to survive and to raise her kids. And scattering on the yard, there was 5 kids. 4 of them was just like that boy. 4 kids in the same situation as the boy, my ex-wife's brother. And the only person that was there to help her was her daughter, 12 years old daughter. Was the only person that was there to help her with those 4 kids. No husband. So that situation impacted me. I never forgot that woman. And when we see something like this, we realize that our life we don't have problems. We don't have problems. Especially me, I can tell for myself, I never ever had a problem that is 10% of the problems they have. So I like to share the situation to see, so we would picture someone who really faces expiation and trials and atonement in this life. But the thing is, a scientist, a very gifted mind scientist, once in an interview told in a very, very respectful way, because he was not criticizing anything, he was just sharing his feelings, probably because he had faced some hard situation in his life, maybe devastating events. He was sharing that he gave up religion and he gave up God at once, because religion was not able to explain human suffering. And he said, why, or if there is a God, he should not allow some suffering to exist. For example, a little child that is born in that situation, or with a physical disease, or children that are born in situation that in deep poverty or domestic violence. So God should not allow some suffering to exist according to his perspective. And he had no answer from religion. Why this happened to one kid while another kid was born in a rich house and had all the opportunities in life to succeed, all the good stuff from life. So he couldn't find explanation in religion for that. So he gave up. And even, he said, even if we can accept that the consolation will come in the future life, like we can have faith and suffer here, there will be reward in the future life. Even we will accept as certainty that there is a real future life, why one pay a high price to get there, while another one just pay like little or nothing to get in the same place. Why one go in this one take his trip to the paradise in the first class with all comfort, while this one pay a very high price for the ticket and have to sit in the last chair of the economic class. Economic class. Because some people seems that everything goes wrong in that life. Since they are born, everything seems not working well for them, while others have all the things flowing so easily in their lives. Why? He asked, and he had no answer. And he said, if God is just should be his laws. So, the answer that religion gives in this matter is a very simple one. Is God's will. God's will. God wants this to be this way. And you should not question, because Jesus promised, blessed are the afflicted, because they will be consoled. So don't worry about it. In the future, in the other life, maybe after life, you will find consolation. God's will is a mystery. We don't know why, but it's God's will. Is that easy to live with? But for some people, they take it. For many people, they take it. They take it, and because they are fond to Jesus, fond to his story, his teachings, and because they really have faith in the future, and they believe that this is the way it should be, they take it. They take it. But I'm going to tell another story, another personal story, to illustrate this. I met a girl a few years ago in Brazil. Her brother had died a few years before I met her. I never knew why or how he died, because she never told me. She said, when I asked, and sometimes I even insisted, she said that she could not tell. She wasn't able to tell me how he died. But one thing she told me, that when he was in the hospital, or when in the last moment he went to the hospital, he went with him, and he stayed by his side all the time. And she prayed to God in a very deep sorrow, and prayed to God to keep him with her family, because they already had lost their father, and the brother was kind of a head of the family. So she asked in her knees, and the brother died anyway, regardless all her prayers. So she said, since then she doesn't want to know about religion anymore. She didn't want to know about God anymore. She broke up with God. So that's the situation. When you can take the God's will until the day you face this type of situation in your life, until devastating events happen in our lives, and then happens something that I would call the power of why. It's when people start to say, why me? Why me? I'm fairly good person. I'm always open to help. I have good heart. Why me? if there's so many people out there that they don't care about anything. They don't care about God, they don't care about life, they don't care about people. They do bad things, they kill. Why not them? Why me? They start asking. Or when you face a situation like we had years ago, a shooting, and they kill your child, and then you ask, why my child? There are so many childs out there that are in bad situation. They are victim of domestic violence. They are living in a very bad environment. Why didn't God take them instead of my child? As if God has a big mouth and he needs to feed from child and he randomly take one. So they ask, why me? Why my child? So that's when we give up the explanation, God's will. Because we want to know why. Why me? Because when it's with us, everything changes perspective. So that's what happened to that scientist, to my friend, and for so many other people in the world. But there's an answer for that. You know that, of course. When Jesus was talking to the people and speaking to them and offering them consolation, we can imagine the scenario. We can imagine that Jesus was probably he had his heart tightened with sorrow, because he knew, as an evolved spirit as he was, in the level of evolution that he was able to know the problem of every single person that was listening to him. So he knew every problem that was surrounding him in that moment. And those people were not like we are here now, comfort in our very nice clothes, sitting comfortably after a very nice day of work, after being very well fed and having family waiting for us in our house. They were totally different people. Can you imagine suffering 100 years ago? Can you imagine suffering 2,000 years ago? There was mothers with kids in their arms, not knowing how would be the future of their kids, because they were living in a time that when you leave the house in the morning, you don't know if you're going to be dead when the sun sets. So it was a very tough moment, and Jesus knew all of that. He knew the suffering of every and each person present in that moment. And he could not tell them more than was telling them. And he was saying, have faith. Blessed are the afflicted, because they will be consoled. He could not do anything else than making promises. And he made a very nice promise to them. He said, I have so much to tell you, but I can't tell you because you're not able to understand. But at the right moment, I will send another consoler that then will tell you everything that I could not tell you now. So in the 19th century, as we know, Allan Kardec's work brought us very valuable information, tools to help us to understand how life works. And we found through that this is not about God's will. This is not about even punishment. That's not about anything else but laws. Moral laws, spiritual laws, and a very important mechanism that serves as an engine to keep all these laws in force, in progress, and to help all the universe to be in balance, which is reincarnation. That itself responds a lot of questions. That itself, that alone, would give more consolation than all the words we can find in the Bible. When they took the reincarnation from the Bible in the year 300, because the wife of the I don't remember if he was emperor or what he was, asked him to take the word reincarnation from the Bible because she could not deal with the possibility of reincarnating as a slave, because her life was a life of a queen. So since then, we could not hear about reincarnation in church anymore. But through Allan Kardec, thank God, we were able to learn again about reincarnation. But reincarnation brings us a lot of answers. But Allan Kardec says we need to be wise enough to distinguish the suffering that belongs to past lives, to other lives that we had, and the suffering that belongs to this life, because this makes a lot of difference in our lives, knowing this, because things that comes from past life, most of them we cannot change, like the case of the boy I told you. He was born that way. He has no power to change that. Nobody has the power to change that. But if the suffering, the cause of the suffering belongs to this life, so we can try to find the solution and the healing for the situation. So in the chapter 5 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, Allan Kardec will describe many situations where we can see clearly that some suffering belongs to this life and not previous life. I'm going to read some for you because it's a very... I want to share his words. I hope I find this easily here. Yeah, he says, on going back to the origins of earthly misfortunes, it must be recognized that many are natural consequences of character and the behavior of those who suffer them. How many fell through their own fault? How many are the victims of their own thoughtlessness, pride, and ambition? How many destroy themselves through lack of discipline, misconduct, or from not knowing how to limit their desires? How many disastrous marriages are due to the fact that they were built on calculated interest or vanity in which the heart took no part? How many illnesses and disease stem from intemperance and excess of all sorts? Can you imagine a person like age, let's say in the 40s, 50s, or 60s, doesn't matter what age, end up having a cancer, like let's say a liver cancer or pancreas cancer. That person could think, oh man, this is a trial, this is my karma. This is something that I have to face because something that I have done in past life, probably. But then you go back on his life and see that when he was teenager, in order to fill in order to be able to be part of the group, he started to tasting some drinks here and there, and he liked that. And soon he made that a regular event in his life, having drinks here and there. And at some point that became an addiction, and he started to drink like almost every day. So along the time, he starts to damage his body, his liver, his pancreas, his brain, or other parts of his body. And one day, the result was cancer. So where's the source of the suffering, if not in the present life? Or a person who lives, this can be us, more easily. Maybe you can fit in this example more than the other one. A person who lives 20 minutes from his work. Let's say a man who lives 20 minutes from his work. But he wakes up in the morning like 25 minutes before he starts work. So he doesn't have time even to have a breakfast. And you know that some people that don't have breakfast becomes very cranky. Or some people that don't have coffee or caffeine in the morning becomes very cranky. So he get ready to go to the work, but he wasn't disciplined person. He can't find his keys, the car keys. So he spent like 5 to 10 minutes to find the keys. So he get into traffic, and the traffic is not really good. So he get angry, he start to yell to people, and be very, very impatient. And he gets into his work like 10 minutes, 15 minutes later. When he crossed the front door, he catches the boss' eyes looking at him with a no happy face. So his colleague says to him, greet him, "Good morning." And he says back, "Oh, well, it can be good for you, but for me it's not good at all." So where is the source of this let's say this trial, this suffering, or this stress that this person is experiencing in his days? And how many of us don't pay attention? We focus on our spiritual life. Because we have family to raise, we need to do stuff like right away and this way. So you don't focus on our health. We don't focus on make some exercise our body. We are not worried about what we eat, and if we take time to take care of other sides of our lives. So soon we get sick, and you don't know why. I'm talking about like very serious sickness. I'm not talking about this sickness we have every season, the seasonal sickness. So where are the source of our suffering? So Emmanuel says that 70% of the vicissitudes that the humanity experience in life have its source in this present life. It's a very important statistic, because we stop blaming like fate or God or previous life or anything else. Most is our own fault, but it's not easy to get into this conclusion, even if we are honest enough to go back, to go inside of ourselves and trying to find the source of our suffering, which is very hard because self-knowledge is a very long and hard process. Even if we have the courage to take this journey, many times we're not going to have courage enough to put in action the change that needs to be made in order for us to feel better in life, or to be healed for some problems we have. It's not easy. So that's why probably that Jesus, in some of his cures, when people came to him, he asked back, "Do you want to be healed?" Or some other times he said, "What do you want from me?" He knew what he wanted. He wants to be healed. But he asks anyway, because this applies to us. Are we really willing to get rid of our imperfections? Imperfections that are already spotted in our spirit, in our being? Are we really? So it's hard, it's not easy. Because it's not easy. And Emmanuel says that the most of suffering in this life is because of the human condition, which is imperfection. So as long as we are imperfect, we will constantly be dealing with problems, doubts, which are all consequence of our own imperfection. So this is the world where we live. But for some people it's not easy to understand this. That's why we are here in the Spiritist movement. Compared to the other religions, we are a very small group, because it's not easy to go this way and face all these realities. So, but the other when we go through this, even being very hard, if we have courage enough to go deep and see if the problem belongs to this life, and we don't find the answer, probably the source of the problem is in somewhere else out of this present life, in our previous life. Emmanuel, I don't remember if it's Emmanuel, but there is a case when a person was incarnated with another person, living with another person, that this first person was waiting for the opportunity for 700 years to be able to reunite with this other person again, to heal their past. So we don't know who is around us. We don't know the where we are, what has to do with our past or our present. So when we don't find the problem, the source of the problem here, probably would be in the past. But the bonus, the good thing about this is, if we don't know who we have to put more our attention, because it's someone from the past that we need to re-harmonize with, so we should do this for everyone around us. We should love everyone, we should be good for everyone, we should help everyone, because no matter who it is, this person, we will be doing the right thing, no matter what. But some people has it's very hard for some people to understand this, to understand why we have to, since we have so much problems in this life, so many challenges, and so many problems, and it's so hard to live in this planet that is planet of imperfection. Why don't you, after we die, why don't you go to a place where we stay, which is be more easy? It would be easier for us to manage all these problems that we have inside of us. If we didn't have to work so hard, if we don't have to raise our kids, be deprived of so many things you like in life, to take care of our little ones, if you don't have to deal with survival in this planet, wouldn't it be much easier if we go somewhere after life and be in a place when we can comfortably deal with our problems? Why not? And I like to read one of the last questions of the Spirit book in the topic. Question 1012. When Kardec asks the spirits, are there any specific places in the universe, in the whole universe, set apart for the joys and sorrows of a spirit according to their merit? Because when you are a spiritist, we read and you listen about all those spiritual realms like No Solar, other colonies in the spiritual world, that the Spirit says is so much better, so much pleasant to live there, because there's no evil, there's no people trying to do any bad for anyone. And then we think, that's a place I want to go. That's a place that all we should be, since that's what we want, to be in a place like this, when there's no evil. Nobody's thinking about doing anything bad. But the answer is intriguing, and it's very frustrating actually. We have already answered this question. The joys and sorrows of spirits are inherent to their degree of perfection. Each spirit finds the principle of its happiness or unhappiness in itself. As spirits are everywhere, there is no enclosed or confined place set apart for either one or the other. So no matter where you are, if you're not comfortable inside, I'm going to tell you something. Can you go back in time and think about something that you have done, even when you were very young? Something that you have done that if you could go back in time, you would do different. Something that doesn't bother much, because as a spiritist we think, okay, I was immature, I did this because I didn't know, but that thing still bothers us when we remember. And if it was possible to go back in time, you would go and fix that, right? Can you find this in your past, one situation? So it bothers, but I don't think this problem is gonna be a reason for us to reincarnate to fix. But imagine if you have done something that was really bad, that you have killed someone or more than one, that you were the reason, or were the reason of somebody else's disgrace or a family disgrace. If you have been racist, or you disregarded some people suffering or misery, or you did something very dishonest to achieve some position in life. Can you imagine, wherever you are, when you have the awareness about life, that thing's not gonna let you be comfortable wherever you are. That's why we see in the books of André Luiz's books and other authors that the spirit is there, living his life, find all the wonders in the spiritual world, and at some point he has to come back, because he has to heal situations that he had in the past. So there's nowhere we can go, because everything will be here in our conscience, and we're going to be carrying with us wherever we go. So there is no such a place. So yeah, that's what the Spirit said. So knowing all this and being beyond of the God's will answer, we can look life with a different perspective now. We can look at someone that's facing let's say someone very honest, someone good, someone that usually help others, is very open to help others. It's nice as a good parent, good brother, good sister, good son, good daughter, good employee. And even though being all of this, is facing life a very hardship, very hard trial, is definitely being a tournament. And clearly see that possibly is because something that happened in past life. We can't judge because we never know. It goes case by case based. Because we never know. We cannot judge anyone. You see someone in suffering. That woman, for example, that has 4 kids, mentally ill. I still don't know if that woman was having an expiation. But I don't know if she was there because she did something wrong to those kids, or if she was a very much evolved spirit than me, because I definitely wasn't able to do that. I know because my limitation, my imperfections, I wasn't able to do what that woman was doing. And she was there because she did something wrong to their kids, or if she was a evolved spirit helping them for love. We are not able to judge this, but we can see clearly that when a person is good and honest and still going through a hardship in life, we can clearly say that this is expiation, this is trial, this is atonement, this is something that belongs, which source belongs to a past life. The source is not in this life, definitely. And we also can say that this person is taking the best of he or she, her or his incarnation. Because it's, no matter what is happening, the person was keeping the ball rolling. Is accepting the situation, is having faith that in the future she or he will be in a different position, in a different situation. So that's the person that is really taking the best of his or her incarnation. On the other hand, when you see some people that's going through the same type of hardship and is complaining, hates life, is being aggressive to everybody around, and not accepting the situation, being rebellious, this person, we can say, is going through the dark side of the expiation. And this type of thing will feel for this person as eternity. Is eternal punishment, because suffering feels like eternity. Now we see, when we are happy, the clock goes faster. When we are facing hard situations, the clock goes slower. Especially pain, physical pain. So, we can see clearly who is taking the best of reincarnation, and we can have the same look to ourselves and analyze how we are dealing with the problems we have in this life. Are we taking the best of it, or we are choosing the dark side of the atonement we are going through? This is our choice, because it's not in our hand. So when Kardec asked the spirits, is there a limit? Is there a limit time scheduled time for a suffering of a person? And the spirit says, yes, there is. But it can be reduced by God's compassion. It's not very, very consoling, knowing that we can do something about it, that we can take action in some ways to reduce the expiation we are going through. It's not God's will anymore. It's something that we are experience in consequence of something that we have done, which is very natural in our imperfect level of evolution. It's very common for all of us going through some problem, but we can do something about it. That's very consoling, that we can do something about it. So Spiritism offers us, in matter of hope and consolation, through the knowledge of reincarnation, offers to us the whole combo, hope and consolation. Hope, two words meaning in the different end of the same subject. Hope is what we expect. Consolation is what we get. So Spiritism offers both, because you can have hope that one day we'll be in better situation than we are now, as long as we take action to fix what we can now see that's wrong in our lives. And consolation because we have the certainty that one day, no matter what we have done, even for those who had killed someone, who had been responsible for a shooting, mass shooting, even for this person will have the certainty that one day in the future he will have cleared out from his conscience all the wrongdoing that he had done. This is certainty through reincarnation, through progression, through evolution. This is much more counseling than only say God's will. So that's the message I like to share today. I think we have a lot to meditate about it, to analyze ourselves. And I thank first the spirits for helping me to be here, to giving this lecture to you, sharing this information and this message, because it's not easy for us. That this is our second language, and you know that's not easy at all for us to express ourselves as deep as we could in our first language. But I felt like they were helping me all the time, not only today, but all the preparation and everything. And I thank you the opportunity to be here and doing this, because it's great. It's amazing that we can do this. So I thank you for your patience, and God bless all of us.
We now